high. Everybody has a thing. Doctors are good at medicine and stuff. Truck drivers are good at cutting me off on the highway. Ben Affleck is good at being always depressed while carrying 7 full Dunkin' cups. And in the case of my grandpa, well, he excels in yelling at whatever he's actively watching on his television at that moment. He's been in the game for a long time too, and he's had a hell of a career. Unfortunately, the TV set that he bought to celebrate Bill Clinton getting impeached just broke. So, in order to commemorate its and his legacy, here are the top 8 times that my grandpa yelled at his own television. Number 8, when the kid in a quiet place made noise. This is a relatively recent one, but still an all-timer. Though my grandpa only knows John Krasinski as that beta kid from The Office, he still is a huge fan of his work. So he was more than happy to watch John Krasinski's 2018 instant horror classic, A Quiet Place. Things went south pretty quickly. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the 6-year-old movie, but in the opening 10 minutes, Krasinski's on-screen son, a character whose name I don't know and haven't looked up, puts batteries into a toy truck and it starts to make all kinds of noise. Upon seeing this, my grandpa sat straight up in his recliner and said, "You idiot kid, you stupid f***ing kid. That's the whole point. The whole thing is don't make noise. You'd never survive in the real world." And I said, "Grandpa, this is a fictional movie, and also, he's 7 years old." But he didn't pay attention to me. He was still pretty mad that the kid made noise. Then, a few moments later, the kid gets f***ing bulldozed by a 10-foot tall alien going 800 miles an hour. And though it's a scene that's supposed to be emotional for the audience, my grandpa leaned back in his chair and said, "Yeah, that's what happens, kid. You reap what you sow." And then I said, "Grandpa, isn't that a little intense?" And then he said, "Stop talking, watch the movie." So that's number 8. Number 7, when Nicki Minaj called out Miley Cyrus at the 2015 VMA Awards. One thing you gotta know about my grandpa is that he is a day one barb. He loves her music and he says that she's a very beautiful woman. For a time he kept calling her his hall pass, but he stopped because my grandma asked him to. Anyway, 2015 VMA Awards, Nicki Minaj wins an award for something, music, probably, and my grandpa goes ape shit. "Barb Nation," he says. "Barb Nation, Barb Nation." He just keeps saying it over and over again, super loud too. Nicki gives her speech, and during it she says that famous line, "Miley, what's good?" And then it cuts to Miley Cyrus, who's like just kind of sitting there, like no real reaction. She's just kind of there. My grandpa went crazy. He yelled, "Oh shit, she mad. Country girl ain't never met a bad bitch like Nicki before." He said that. And he still talks about the whole ordeal. It's been like 10 years. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Number 6, Jordan Belfort taking expired Quaaludes in The Wolf of Wall Street. This is a quick one, but a strange one. In Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street, there's a scene where Jordan Belfort takes expired Quaaludes. Immediately after he did that, he just went on with his day, because he assumed that they wouldn't work because they were expired. And as we were watching that scene, my grandpa got up and he yelled, "No, Jordan! They work! They're gonna hit harder, they just take a while." And that's exactly what happens later on in the movie. I said, "Grandpa, how did you know that that was how expired Quaaludes work?" And he didn't answer me. He didn't even look at me. I asked again, too, and he just kept watching the movie. He turned the volume up a little bit, but not enough not to hear me. And in fact, I know he heard me, because my grandma sneezed a few rooms away, and it was a way quieter level of volume than what I was speaking at. And then my grandpa said, "Bless you." So he definitely heard me. Weird. Number 5, the Courage the Cowardly Dog episode with King Ramses. He was just straight up screaming at this one. Just guttural fear. Right at the TV. I get it. It was visually scary. I get it. Number 4, any time on The Flash where the villain would escape the Flash. I believe his usual complaint upon seeing the averagely fast villain escape the guy with super speed was, "What's the point of having super speed at all, you lanky bitch?" You spindly bitch. And I was like, Grandpa, go easy on him. And then he was like, there's no reason that the guy with super speed should not be able to catch Captain Boomerang. That's bullshit. He should run full force into Captain Boomerang and fucking explode him. And I said, whoa, Grandpa, this show is for kids. And then Grandpa hypothesized the Flash is letting Boomerang guy get away because he's soft. The Flash is probably a Democrat. And then I said, why are you making things political? And then he said, Obama is the worst thing to ever happen to this country. Number 3, December 20th, 2012. Do you guys remember when everyone thought that the world would end on December 21st, 2012 because that was the last day of the Mayan calendar? That was weird, but I thought that everyone kind of agreed that it was more like a joke that we were all in on, you know, like Y2K or something. There was a countdown on TNT on the night of December 20th, 2012, and we were all watching it as kind of like a fun, fake scary type of thing. My grandpa was in the fetal position on the floor, bugging the fuck out. Grandma and I were like, this is weird. But then Grandpa just kept talking about how the sins of his past were waiting for him in the depths of hell. Oh. But once the clock struck midnight and the world didn't end, Grandpa got up off the floor and he said, and I'll never forget this, he said, I repent for nothing. I am ultimate. I will never die. Classic Grandpa. Number 2, when Rudy Giuliani was on The Masked Singer. Raucous applause. Standing ovation. My grandfather loved the performance, and he loved it even more when he found out that it was once New York City mayor and since controversial political figure / disbarred lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. He said, this is the greatest television show of all time. This is better than MASH. This is better than MASH. And I said, you think so? And he snapped kind of quick and said, yeah, that's why I just said it. Twice. And I said, all right, dude, Jesus. And then he muted the TV and without looking at me, he said, I'm not like you. I don't say things just to talk. When I say things, it's because they're important. It's because I mean them. And then things got really tense and awkward because he kind of just lashed out at me for no reason. And then he sat back in his chair and I think he called me an idiot under his breath. So, thank you, Rudy. Number 1, when Nicolas Cage went on SNL while Andy Samberg was doing an impression of him. My grandpa was freaking out. I mean, he was loving the impression. He loves Andy Samberg, but when the real Nicolas Cage walked up right next to him, Gramps started yelling pretty loud. He said, he's right behind you, Andy. He's hearing you do this. Stop, stop, stop. And he was serious. He was not doing a bit. He was genuinely freaking out for Samberg. He thought that if he yelled loud enough, he would actually successfully alert Andy Samberg that Nicolas Cage was right behind him. Aside from the fact that Andy Samberg was in Midtown Manhattan and we were in the Florida Panhandle, we were watching the show at 4:30 p.m. on a Thursday. I said, Grandpa, even if he could hear you, the show isn't live anymore. We're watching a recording. And then he said, Saturday Night Live. What do you think live stands for? And then I said, live doesn't stand for anything. That's the entire word. Also, do you think if something was filmed live, it means that it's always live? Then he told me to shut up. And those were the top 8 times that my grandfather yelled at his own television set. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me relive each one of those beautiful memories. Huge apologies in advance to John Krasinski and the fellow that plays the Flash for catching those strays in the middle of the list. And get excited for next episode where I talk about the top 6 coolest things that my idiot nephew broke. Goodbye.